broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the first WilmsFront featured interview show for 2025 on this January the 10th, back broadcasting this year on Thursday evenings. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube channel, the WilmsFront Rumble channel, and my WilmsFront X account. It is 7 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where in October last year, residents of Victoria will have voted in local government elections. So that is to elect councillors for 78 local government areas in Victoria. Now, unlike federal and state elections, Victorian councillors are elected entirely through postal voting, or mail-in ballots, as it's also known, sent to your enrolled residential address. You get a list of candidates for your specific council ward. It doesn't disclose if there are members of political parties. All you receive is your ballot paper with a pamphlet where each candidate has written a blurb about themselves and what they will do for you if you elect them. Therefore, many voters can be tricked into electing fake independents and Marxists. During the local government elections last year, I was enrolled in the city of Casey, the Cranbourne Gardens ward. I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally vote for a councillor who would raise rates, waste ratepayers' money on cultural Marxist programs, and banish Australian flags. So I sought the advice of former City of Casey councillor Rosalie Crestani, who was extremely helpful in suggesting that I vote for Michelle Crowther, who was duly elected for Cranbourne Gardens ward. Rosalie was a councillor for the City of Casey from 2012 until February 2022, when the council was sacked because two councillors had received direct payments from a property developer, John Woodman. This led to the City of Casey residents being without elected representation for 4 years until this past council election. Rosalie has written a memoir about her time in the City of Casey Council called Battlefield, standing firm for God and Nation. Rosalie, welcome back to WilmsFront.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Now, politicians usually write a memoir, autobiography at the end of their political career. Now, you didn't run as a candidate in the local government elections this past year. Are you now a retired politician?
No, very much not. I made the decision to write some of the stories about the 7 years I was elected to council, including one. And I keep a very important, all the best bits are in the book. I did have to edit out quite a few chapters just to make it more concise, but I hope it's enjoyable. I've had some great feedback already, but you're right. People usually write at the end of their career. I wanted to give people, who's Rosie? What are the articles failed to tell you about Rosalie? And that's why I wrote the book, so you could learn more about me, that I can tell my side of the story from the very beginning.
Now, when I was reading your book, I got to the end and I noticed that there wasn't a mention of the Rise Up Australia political party, which you ran for at several federal elections and one state election. It was the party was deregistered in 2019. So I was curious about, because I was expecting to get to that bit of the book.
Well, it's interesting. In earlier drafts, I did actually.
I can't hear.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. In earlier drafts of the book, which I started over 4 years ago, I did include mentions of Rise Up, but because a large body of my book was around council work, I wanted to ensure I separated the two. As far as Rise Up Australia and the campaigns that I ran in, I'm proud of that work, and that may be another book one day. But at this stage, I wanted to ensure that people got to know me and also some of the work on council and what drove me to do what I did.
Obviously, a lot of residents, well, Australians outside of the city of Casey, that's how they came to know you. Now, I saw you at countless public events giving passionate presentations. Though I never met your family, your husband Anthony, but you talk very much about him in the book. He was my impression from reading the book is that he was supportive enough of you to run for council, but his mindset was, look, we should just focus on protecting and shielding our family from all these destructive forces that are coming into our world.
Yes, well, you are right. Anthony is very much protective of his family, and he's wanting to support me in the work that I've done. However, there's this balance between trying to look after his family, ensure his wife's okay, have his family unit together. And being from Italian background, he's very family orientated, but he also is very passionate about politics as well. So he's taught me more probably than I've been able to teach him in a lot of ways too, from a lot of his reading. So I know that I did portray that, and it is true. At the same time, I did say it during one of the parts, you do watch a lot of stuff. We've got to just do something. We can't talk about it. We actually have to put into action. So I've got the bent towards that. Other people don't. They may turn it around, turn the ship around. So how do we wake everyone? Because Wake Up Australia needs us.
And obviously, sorry, there's still a bit of a delay there coming from back, but we'll persist. Obviously, and we'll get to how local councils work in Victoria later on, but you earn a part-time salary being a local councillor, so you've still elected councillors, most of them still work full-time, and your children were much younger there, so it would have such a juggling act, to use the sort of expression, but that's not even including all of the politicking and the stress that comes from being on a council, and also being a public figure where there's as you describe in the book, a lot of critical attention on you.
Yes, it was quite a journey. And if I look at the person I was back then when I first started up to now, I can look at the way that, yeah, sure, we had to juggle a lot of things. We had to juggle as a family. My husband supported me reluctantly, but he knew that it was important work. It was important to me as well. But doing full-time work on a part-time salary, that was tough. Be honest with you, and can stand on my own 2 feet and not feel the impact quite as much as I did back then. It's going through, I think I did quote this in the book, that public humiliation or public attention in negatively can produce in someone a fearlessness that can be gained by no other way. And so that I really believe that you step out to do something that's difficult, and when you come out the other end, you're going to be tough, and you're going to have some sort of authority on that. So it's made me who I was. Partly it's made me who I am, and I am very proud of the work. It's not easy, and there's times where I had to choose between certain family events and the work, but I like to think I made a good juggle of it. The kids are grown up a little bit now, and they're very well established, very well settled in, so it's been okay ride in the end.
Your husband, Anthony, he would have been not a diplomatic politician. You quote him often in the book, say, oh, you should just tell them to get stuffed. I mean, if he was on the council, it would be quite an entertaining meeting.
Yes, yes, that's right. Talk about ending up at the conduct panel. He might have been one or two times, but I think though that his heart's pure, and I find most of the country wants what's best for Australia. I believe that most people do, and I know that a lot of people were quiet in not, they didn't support me necessarily publicly, but I had a lot of quiet support, and I think that is what got me re-elected too, is that although people didn't want to come out and necessarily say, oh, look, we believe in what you believe publicly, a lot of people did, but there was this massive amount of people that really pushed me over the line for the second election. And I'm confident that I have the backing of a lot of Australians, public opinion in the public square. So I'm onto something.
And you mention it briefly in the book, but you spoke at a lot of patriot rallies, which they really exploded onto across Australia in 2015. In response to and you mentioned that in this book, the Link Cafe siege in December 2014, which was, two Australians were murdered by an Islamist, which we just had 10 years since that happened. And so there was there was anger and wanting to, the main organisation that grew up Reclaim Australia, I mean, the name said it all. There was a real wanting to protect Australian culture and values, and this is a battle that we're still fighting. We should be allowed, at the very least, to be proud to be an Australian.
Absolutely. So I am proud to be a part of those patriot rallies because you're right, exploded onto the scene, and there was this momentum that carried for quite some time. I was able to speak at one or two of them, but I definitely was the MC for most of them, and that was just an amazing part of my history as well. In just and that book, but that inspired me to continue to do what I did, and I've always wanted to seek peace-loving discourse with the Islamic community. And I think, as I've said in my book, most people are very peace-loving. It is just that element, and we have to be concerned that trying to change our culture and our way of life, as we often see the Islamic Sharia law, they have zero tolerance for any other way of life. That's how I see it, and that's how it's sort of played out in the public square. I think we still have to remain vigilant, and it hasn't stopped. So Link Cafe wasn't the last concern that we had here as a nation. And I think that the security force has probably been a bit more quieter about what way they've actually snuffed out some of those would be attacks, and even they come in our way of life. Most people do. I met so many citizens at council when they came through the citizenship ceremonies. I looked eye to eye with almost all of the citizens, and I could see that people wanted what's best for this nation. They were grateful. They were so grateful to be here, as my dad was when he came from a war-torn part of Europe. And so most people are, but I'm saying it only takes a small element to ruin it for everyone. And so we learn from that what happened in 2000, and then at the end of 2004, street rampage as well, that killed more than 2 people. I think there was 5 or 6. And so same reason.
And there was another one at the end of 2017 at Flinders Street, that crossing.
That's correct.
A elderly gentleman lost his life as well. And we saw over the Christmas and New Year period what happened in Magdeburg, Germany, just utterly horrific, and same in New Orleans. And I said this on my own news program this week. Like, these were real people. They're not just on the death tally on the news. Lots of them had their whole lives ahead of them. Lots still to live. They're there for a enjoyable time, and then they're murdered, and their loved ones are they're there to have to pick up the pieces and live with the trauma.
That's right. It could emerge almost anywhere, and that's why we should remain vigilant and try to, but also taking it from different sides, not only ensure that security forces are well funded and they're supported, to ensure that when we're vetting people to let them in the country, that they should be a low risk. So yes, sure, they should be able to have vocations, but they also should have low risk, have low the crime risk of perpetrating things we can do, but to make a strong what we expect of the way everyone should behave, not just new arrivals.
The internet keeps cutting up. I'm not sure if it's on my end or your end. I might just, if it's my end, just move the router closer. So just I'll just pause this for a moment.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll make a difference, but we'll persevere.
Okay.
Now, speaking of trauma, you opened up in your book about a family trauma. Your oldest sister, Nicole, passed away after a struggle with substance issues at the age of 28. And she had a son at the time, Justin, who was 7. And you write in the book that, unbeknownst to you as a child, she was sexually abused and also gang raped at university. And I can't imagine what that would have been like, like for her, and also, but for the rest of your family to obviously see someone you love struggle like that and then succumb to their trauma and addiction. So obviously it would have been so difficult for like yourself and your siblings and your parents. Like thankfully nothing like that's happened
Yeah.
in my family, but it's
Yes, it
something that
was.
it can still happen to any family.
It is. It was a very dark period. In fact, I do detail how it inspired me to do what I do. I'll never forget what happened to Nicole, and also the reasons why she did turn to substance abuse. And I do detail that. That's great that they got a lot of people that feel to gravitate to deal with their pain. And my question in the book is, shouldn't we be able to support people a lot better? But not only to try to minimize what's happened to them, as in minimize the risk of happening to children. So it's not that this could happen. So I know things still happen regardless of how careful families. Normalise the sexualization of children is going to create an environment where kids could be open for abuse a bit more, so increased. And so that's my point. Let's not sexualize them in any way. Let's not teach them about things too young. And yes, allow the families and the children, families and the parents to support that process a lot better. The culture, movies, pornography, why should that be the thing that the kids have exposure to? I was proud to be able to do something on council about that. And of course, that's one of the very first things I did as a councillor, which I'll look forward for people to read to find out what that was. But it's something about a sibling's death, or anyone that you care about their death, that makes you become hold no prisoners. There's no. So yes.
And her son Justin, he's all grown up now. How is he doing?
Yeah, so he is another amazing. He's an overcomer. He really has gone through a very difficult experience, and he's had his own battles with things, but he has just come through. He helps all sorts of people through some of the worst crimes in their life. It counts for sure, and he is one of them. He's in his mid-20s. He's in a really stable relationship, someone who loves him very much. He's very caring for him and support him throughout. And he's been able to, he takes phone calls from people who are in some of what people would consider some of the darkest of society. But he could, in that moment, speak into their life, and they can turn in a moment like that, because what's happened.
Well, we've got over in the US a vice president elect whose mother struggled with substance issues. JD Vance. I haven't read his book, but I saw the movie. But where he is now, and just you can tell that all of what he speaks, it's from the heart experience. He's just so eloquent in talking, and explaining MAGA policies from how why the ordinary person I like them and embrace them. So that's when I read that part about your late sister's son, it sort of reminded me a bit of JD Vance.
Oh, that's wow. Yes, well, Trump really picked a good one in JD Vance for sure, and captured the heart of the people in the meantime. So he understands. He put aside a lot of his President-elect Trump. He put aside a lot of his, I think, the concerns that JD Vance backed him a lot throughout. And this is an opportunity to capture people's heart to turn this country around. So to be able to do that, recognise. So it's interesting you draw the parallel between the comparisons. So yeah, that's an interesting perspective.
Now, a number of your chapters in the book talk about you, and you alluded to it before. Were fighting against your own council's LGBT sexualization programs, and I was gobsmacked when at your daughter's footy match, and your daughter was very young at the time, that there were LGBT rainbow 50-meter arcs. I mean, you would have had, I think you have to see it to believe it. Like, I still can't believe that was, and you were a councillor at the time, and this was done without your knowledge. And I was just sort of looking up the City of Casey website at the moment, and so they still have all of this LGBT stuff on their website. So what is it? At the recent council elections, they had a LGBTQIA plus information session in partnership with the Municipal Association of Victoria and the Rainbow Local Government, and it was done by Rodney Croom, who's from Tasmania, not even from the local area.
I missed some of what you said, but I heard about the having information session at Casey. Is that right?
And by Rainbow Local Government.
In my book, I do raise concerns about having some of these sessions. I was skeptical about what is it that they're teaching, who funds it, and what is it they're trying to do. And why should public money happen? It's not crazy for us to ask questions like this. The public should have a right to know what's being taught. And what are they trying to do? Sexuality and keep the impact of government, and let society and the culture at large look after themselves instead of having government inform about culture.
And that leads me to one of the things that was very clear from your experience on
that. In fact, I believe informed decision, if you know.
That it seems to be that it's the staff who run the council. They're the CEO of the council is on a 6-figure salary. So a lot of the senior managers, most local governments in Australia are run by what's called the council manager system of government. So the council appoints managers to run the council. This is in contrast to most of the US systems of local government, which is strong mayor council. So if, for example, the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, is full-time, he would be considered a strong mayor. The buck stops with him. While even though you're meant to represent the people and advocate for that on their behalf, there's a lot that you're prevented from doing. I mean, you were by the acting CEO banned from contacting staff, which seems as absurd. Like, can you imagine it decided that one of Dan Andrews' ministers or MPs banned from talking to the public service?
I miss that. Sorry, what was that about? There's a bit of a delay, I think.
Yeah. So the fact that it seemed to be the staff who, well, they were full-time, who ran the council most of the time, you're only given a part-time salary, and as you admit, there's a lot. You're supposed to represent the people, but there's a lot that is being done basically behind councillors' backs.
Well, I mean, I had a mixed response when I was on council. So there was a lot of work done behind the scenes as the way that it's supposed to go forward. And administration's job is to walk out that vision. And so I found 95% of administration they got on with their job. So yes, there is a lot of decision making that, as I allude to in the book, that comes in over the top and doesn't even really consult with council. They just implement certain things, like the rainbows on my daughter's footy field. So that's what council did me without even informing. And that's disappointing. And I think a lot of people agree with me. I voiced a lot of these concerns about 3 months before an election. So if people want to think that I was absolutely crazy, then they could have voted me out. But I got twice the vote with less than half the money, or just over half the money of my second competitor. So I know that without any support or assistance from, they felt they wanted just these things because they felt they couldn't, or they need a strong leader on these issues.
And the Local Government Act of Victoria, it's the state government. They have to pass a law. They can sack any council, or they can abolish local governments if they want. It's the system is set up by the state government, and they recently the Andrews Allen government changed the electoral system in most local councils. There's no multi-member wards. Your previous ward of Four Oaks has been abolished, and it's 11 councillors elected by single districts, and it seems to me designed to trick the public into voting for fake independents who are associated with Labor, because there's no party affiliation listed like there is in state and federal elections or local government elections in New South Wales and Queensland.
That's right. So that's correct. They did change it. I think there's pros and cons for doing what they did, and it's not always foolproof to get their plans in either. It's interesting because occasionally someone who's ahead with primaries loses it with, which could still happen anyway, can lose it with preferences. So it was interesting because I believe has had a play what people stand for. You can get a hint based on what they say in the pamphlet, but do people do your research, go on their social medias, try to Google their name. They can't fall off the radar that easy these days. I did have struggled, actually, I struggled for one or two to find out what they really believed in. I was very clear about much neutrality. Perhaps there's conservatives in hiding, which is they might be very bold when they've got elected. Great, but I do believe that if you're bold while you're campaigning, you'll have a lot more support.
And do you believe that the local council elections in Victoria, we should, like it is in the federal and state elections, have an election day where voters go into the polling booths? You can have the how to vote cards at the doors, because there is a lot of, even though it's compulsory to vote, a lot of poor participation when it comes to local council elections, and the fact that enrolment cuts off a change of address 2 months before, which is not what it is in state and federal elections. And we saw in the 2020 election that I'm not talking about the US presidential election, but I'm talking about in the Moreland state election, that it was revealed that he was disqualified. Moreland City Councillor Milad Il Halabi found to have possessed and handled 23 fraudulent ballot papers, which elected him to the council's north west ward. So, and this is the problem with mail-in voting, that your mail can be pinched. And there was, at the most recent election, there was a couple of voting irregularities.
Well, yes. I mean, is voting foolproof all around? If you even digitalise it, will it be foolproof from hacking? Why do we use pencils in state and federal elections? Why aren't we using pens if it's permanent, so that people can't rub them out? I'm wondering what's the most foolproof method. Do we need an audit of our Victorian and Australian electoral commissions to ensure that there is no holes in the election, no matter where you are? So I don't know the answer to that, except to put in safeguards to ensure that mail-in voting, that can be, people can steal ballots out of the mailbox, but I don't know that there is a clear answer on that. An auditing system on what to do. People standing, I don't think local government council candidates have the, I think the idea actually have that in-person voting, or at least before COVID. But I believe Dandenong did, or I could be wrong. But there was certainly councils that allowed that. To have people to hand out how to vote cards, wow, why not do it? For sure. We will probably reduce the amount of dummy candidates because there is and it's not just in council. So how can we limit that if they're not genuine candidates on all levels of all levels of government campaigning, electoral systems?
I understand the points that you're raising, but going back to the US example, the fact that, supposedly people were too scared to vote in 2020 because of COVID, and in 2024 supposedly, like, we were expecting record participation, yet there were 5 million votes that vanished between 2020 and 2024. So in 2020, Joe Biden won by 7 million votes, still the most votes that have ever been cast for a presidential candidate. And so you have two clear examples: a mail-in election, and then you have one where it's an old style election. And some states were able to count the votes all in one night, which is the way it should be, rather than holding on to them for however long. So I think that was pretty clear that there were irregularities with the mail-in voting in the US from 2020.
Yeah, well, I think that you're onto something for sure. That should we do away with that? Probably. But can I still ask, why do you think we use pencils?
You can use a pen. You can bring your own pen to a voting booth. I know that that's what a lot of voters now bring their own pen.
Okay, it just feels like they.
Let's say their justification is that it's because they're easier to stock. They don't smudge pencils. That's sort of what they say are the reasons.
Probably dispute that a bit, but not you, Tim. I think that's look, in this digital age, could we have a foolproof digital voting? Maybe not.
No way.
No, I probably not. But I would like to see that occur, and put some faith in the electoral system back with the Australian people.
Now, the final part of your book is about when the city of Casey, all the councillors were sacked in February 2020, and so this was over the donations that property developer John Woodman had given several councillors. And obviously, City of Casey, there's lots of housing developments there because it's a growing area. But there was two in particular. Sam Aziz, who gave you a hard time as a councillor. You write about in your memoir. I mean, you were accused of being a nasty person. He was really nasty, particularly to you. And the other one was Jeff Ablett. So Sam Aziz received, this excludes political donations, 617,000 in payments, including suitcase consultancy payments, and another one, Jeff Ablett, both were mayors at various points. He received 557,000 from Woodman. Now, there are other councillors who just received standard political donations, such as Gary Rowe, Wayne Smith, and Susan Siri, but they told IBAC these, because they were just standard political donations, they didn't feel that they clouded their judgment, but it was enough for an IBAC investigation and for the local government minister Adam Somyurek to sack the whole council in February 2020. Now, I interviewed you in June 2020. I remember you were visibly upset about losing your role as representing your community. But why does it take 4 years for elected representation again? Why does it take 4 years to fix governance issues? What does that sort of term mean?
So just to go back to what you said, I want to be clear that Jeff Ablett never mistreated me. I want to be clear about that.
I didn't say that.
No, that's okay. I just, because it was linked in what you're saying, his name was mentioned. He was the only one that I recall, and I'm just from him point of view, I could just start that again. Jeff actually declared a lot of conflicts of interest, and I think the thing is where people fell over is if they didn't declare conflicts of interest where they should have. I just want to say that I have corroborated everything I've said in the book with statements, news media, witnesses. I'm very clear about whatever I've said. I actually have a legal basis in order to actually say what I have, to be clear. I also do believe that the community was robbed of representation for almost 5 years, mind you, and we had state government administration come in, and I had feedback from the community that oftentimes they felt there have been increased the inability for things to get done for certain, which I know was out of many people's control. For them to wait 4 years I just think that, that was too long, almost 5 years. In fact, it was 5 years too long, because I do believe we should have held our seats. People should not get sacked or out of elected positions, mind you, elected positions by the people, without trial and without conviction. And that is what happened. There was travesty that occurred, a great level of injustice, and a precedence was set where if I was to ever get into want something done about what kind of level of power the state government has to sack councils, that's crazy making. So yes, I know that was a dark period in our history. There was things that were coming to light that was everyone brushed with the same brush? But unfortunately, what we do know is that no one was put on trial in a court of law, and no one was convicted. And that, with me, water under the bridge, not in a vengeful sort of way, but is to say that I'd like to do something about it one day. And I do want to get back into some political focus to make this country. I'm willing to put it behind me, really, but I think this needs to be dealt with.
And you wrote in the book, and it's mentioned in this Age article I'm referencing, that the former mayor Amanda Stapleton committed suicide in January 2022, which is just horrific that it took such a toll on her. And you mentioned that you regretted that you weren't able to make peace with her before she took her life. And there's this comment from Susan Surrey, who was the mayor at the time of the sacking, who you also had some tense times with her as well. She put it quite well here, that I hope if any of the former councillors are alive and haven't committed suicide, that all of them run and reclaim the city back to the people.
Well, Susan Saray and I got along very well most of the time. Her and I actually started voting similar towards the end there too. So she's probably put it very well. Unfortunately, there was a casualty of this injustice, and Amanda was what former mayor and deputy mayor and councillor who worked very hard for the city, Amanda Stapleton. Her and I, we didn't always see eye to eye, but I know that she had the people's interests at heart. And to be strung out like she was just very unfair. She left behind a son as well, which was very sad. And I learned that within a 6-month period, her mother died before she did. And then her father died 3 months after. So did an investigation into her. And don't you think that's a conflict of interest as well? I find it very hard to believe that they are holding KC councillors, former KC councillors, mind you, to ransom about conflict of interest where it is rife in various segments of what we've seen. You've had the likes of former Premier Daniel Andrews, where people would state perhaps he was at conflict of interest on so many levels.
Well, he met with John Woodman.
And it was coming to light that relates to Casey Council that you speak of. I'm asking people to be fair that anything that was wrong why did some of the state MPs stay in power, kept their seats, but all the councillors got sacked? There's one standard for them and one standard for councillors, and it's high time that this gets addressed. So keep refunding IBAC. I do believe in the system that was implemented. I do believe it's the search for justice, but I've also think that that's because they weren't responsible for sacking council. It was this very, very a pig.
I mean, if the Andrews government was a local council, then they would have been sacked and investigated long ago. When I last interviewed you, it was the eve of the pending second lockdown, and I don't think you and I anticipated just how worse things would become in Victoria, not just 2020 but 2021, how much more evil Dan Andrews would become. I think there's no other word to describe what he subjected us to. And even though he resigned on his own accord, it was still one of the happiest days for me in Victoria. I don't think I've ever hated a politician in the manner that I've hated him. As you know, I'm not a Christian. There's not a lot of willing to sort of forgive somebody like him. I'm not sure about you.
Well, I tell you, I didn't hold back with speaking out to people around me, but also publicly on different social media posts. Well, Daniel Andrews said that wasn't true either. So I don't hate anyone. I dislike what they've done. As a Christian, I am compelled to love people, but I'm not compelled to agree with everything that they do or support it. To be the most locked down city in the world, mind you, couple that with probably the most taxed country in the world, taxed state in the world, you've got to ask what's going on here. So have such a, I mean, I'm going to many people do. I think that's what people are going to remember. How he was re-elected during that time is biggest belief. I just don't understand that. However, a lot of people thought they needed to see a strong leader that turned up to the cameras every day to have some sort of go-to. But there was a lot of unnecessary things that occurred during that time, not to mention the vaccines and how much terror and how much misery and death and sadness that's occurred. Now, I didn't get the vaccinations. There was a lot of pressure on all of us to get. We lost people, all just destroyed a lot of what people were involved in. I mean, a lot of, I think the aim was to shut down small business. Why is it that some of the big corporations could stay open, but not the small businesses, the mums and dads businesses? I've even had people say, who is it for someone in power to tell me that my work's not essential either? And so I've had people tell me that. That's right. What do we decide is essential or not? So, yeah, that was always going to be a year. People knew that they were quite prepared to what that did. It affected my family. But I'm happy to say that, you know, Anthony and I were united on protecting our children, and that included against the vaccines as well. And thank God we endured it, even at the risk of being isolated from so many different people. And I was only one of 2 people in my national organisation at the work I was at that didn't get the vaccine. You had the pressure, not necessarily saying my business, because of my work, one, and times we'll look back at this as one of the darkest chapters in our history, and I hope we learn from this and we never go back there. And I have a feeling the Australian people, no one's going to want to mess with them again. We saw 1 million people turn up to the in front of Parliament House and flooding the streets. That's a huge percentage of the Victorian state population. They're not going to mess with us again because everyone.
I was there. It was incredible to see all the people that turn out. I was filming it, and it was just, yeah, I was inspired, and it did the pressure on the politicians. They did eventually back down in 2022. I hope that the Australian people never allow something like that again. I know that the globalists, they're trying heaps of things such as monkeypox, bird flu. They're saying that there's a new bubonic plague strain that's resistant to antibiotics, and we're going to be worried about that again.
Do you see how no one really cares? No one seems concerned in my circles. They're not baited again, ever again. I've had people tell me there's no way they're getting another vaccine. Doesn't matter what it is. They've ruined what they're being given, what they've been told to give as well. So rightly so. They've can't fault you can't fool the people with bird flu and swine flu and whatever flu, bubonic plague. I mean, come on. You know, you've got to ask yourself, what do they think, we're fools now? So Australia is tougher than that, and we will not be fooled again.
Now, a major contributor to the fact that at the moment Victoria appears like a one-party state with Labor dominance is that the Victorian Liberal Party has its performance and its unity as an opposition has just been lacking, and this continued under John Pesciuto's leadership. You mentioned Moira Deeming in your book. She was one of the termed mama warriors against the Safe Schools program. I interviewed her a couple of times way back in the day. I was very pleased when she was elected, particularly how after how the Liberal Party treated a friend, Bernie Finn, expelling him, and then they tried the same to her over the Let Women Speak in Melbourne, which I was there filming, so I saw exactly what happened. And she just showed incredible strength. I just wanting to go through like a public high stakes defamation case, wanting justice to clear a name from all of the defamation that Prosciutto put against her. And now she's back here. She's back now, got her voice in the party room. So I admire her so much more now.
She's a warrior, as in a mama warrior, and just a tower of strength. I really admire Moira Deeming, and I know that what she did was so important. A lot of people thought she was going to lose because it feels like the House always wins in that case. But, you know, she persevered and she knew she was right, and she had the courts to back her up. I met Moira back in 2017. She was a tower of strength then, and she has invited has invited her back into the party room. That's the way it should be. The people should be able to have a voice. It'd be a difference of opinion, but I mean, we're talking about a conservative liberal parties. They should have those voices of conservatism. I hope we never lose that. In fact, we should revitalise it in the Liberal Party, and there certainly should always be a place at the table for that. If people want to have a variance of opinion on that, that's fine, but don't shut them out of the room. So I think that was a really bad, because people are sick of Labor. It's so on the nose, and Federal has a good chance as well of taking the country back. So I think people should take this opportunity, ride on the wave, and bring back Australia.
And also in that Victorian Liberal parliamentary room, who was part of, she was campaigning for the seat of Cranbourne at the time, but she was with us in solidarity, Anne-Marie Hermans. She was elected in the upper house, and she made it clear at the end of last year that reporting that she voted to expel Moira were wrong. She voted to keep Moira in and voted to admit her back in, and I believe her because we've both met her and know her, that she's strong in her convictions. So there seems to be, and they all seem to be women in the Victorian Liberal parliamentary room who are the strong principled ones.
Yes, I actually found that on council a little bit too. There was times where the women would be the ones to stand up. Now, there are strong conservative men out there, no doubt. But I think that there is definitely paths open for women. Would collaborate. I just wanted to mention something that occurred to me. So when I was emceeing one of the rallies, they also they put in Nina Springle. She was upper house member at the time. She actually had a speech about me saying that, you know, I'm colluding with Nazis or something like along those lines. because they were at the rallies, and how could I, be doing that sort of thing.
Same line they used against Moira.
So I'll just wait for you to come back on.
I hope that it's coming through for the audience here.
So the point I was trying to make is that they put me in Hansard saying that I had, I was connected to neo-Nazi support, activists and that. And that was ridiculous. I tried to get that removed because just some guy was at a rally with a sign, and I actually told him, put that sign down. It's got nothing to do with this rally. And so that got put in. That got left in, and now it's a public record, and it congratulate her, brush with that brush, and have at time not many options to actually defend yourself. So she was successful. I congratulate her. Anne-Marie, sorry, so to mention Anne-Marie, I met, and I've known Anne-Marie for a long time. I haven't spoken to her in a little while, but I congratulate her too on her election. And yes, there are some strong women there. I hope that it builds, and there will be this quiet movement that occurs. I know that the left have the Emily's list. I'd like to say we have something of a conservative view when they see us come. It continues. Women or men, it doesn't have to be just women, but I'm glad that there's more women standing up.
And the issue that Moira is championing in Parliament, protecting women's spaces, you write about in your book that when you were a child, this boy, this son of your daughter's friend, tried to imprison you in the garage and demanded you take your clothes off, which that would have been absolutely chilling to happen. But you displayed a lot of strength in that. You weren't going to let him get what he wanted, and also your daughter as a footballer. There's a lot of these they're allowing women to compete. Men to compete in women's sports now. I'm not sure if this has affected your daughter's football or the football club she's at.
No, it hasn't. I heard of a trans athlete competing in the same competition. It hasn't seemed to become an issue that I can see. I don't know if it will be, but I think
that's good.
Yeah, most people would agree that, to be honest, if a biological born male, so with the benefits of testosterone within sport, perhaps they just building to have that increased size and all the benefits of going through puberty as a male. It is very hard for women to compete against that, and people see Australia as a fair sporting nation. Unfortunately, Ray Gunn was an exception to that. It was a very disappointing and dark period. And I hope we have a bit more rigorous selection panel on that one. But as far as being a sporting nation and to have abilities, to have opportunities, anyone, sure, if it's a trans athlete, but you should compete as your biological DNA, because that means that you are in the same biological pool and have the benefits of that. You cannot change physiological benefits. You might be able to try to do it with some hormones, but 2 years before is not enough to make the fair level playing field. Would there ever be fair playing field. Well, we just boxing. That was people bashed up. We had actually enshrined in Olympic sport domestic violence, if you like. It's just very disappointing, and it is unfair. People want fairness. We all play from the same rule book in sports. I've done a video on this before. So why shouldn't we have the same? Everything's the same level playing field, but then everyone has equal opportunity to win, and that includes physical opportunity, physical fairness.
Now, in Victoria, we're just under 2 years away from a state election. You mentioned the new Victorian opposition leader, Brad Batten. He originally was elected in 2010 as the member for Gembrook, which was abolished. Now he is the member for Berwick, which takes in the city of Casey. So you would have had lots of dealings with him over the years. What was your experience like with him?
Yes, I bumped into Brad, and I just want to congratulate him again on his leadership win. So I bumped into him a few times at different events across when I was a Casey councillor. He's worked very hard for. Didn't have a lot of discussions about where he stands on different issues. I don't know whether he fully supported everything I did or not, but I certainly hope that he does continue to serve the people and unite the Liberal Party so that they can go forward and win this election.
I mean, he comes across as a nice guy, but the recent political history in Victoria is that the Labor Party machine does its best to destroy nice guys. He's a former police officer and a small businessman, same CV as Peter Dutton. But it was interesting to see this. I'm not sure if you've seen this in the Age today. So this is him describing himself. Zero evidence of being a conservative. Batten backs current abortion laws, make his pitch, and he says that he had no plans to water down Victoria's abortion rights. Again, well, that's quite the wording there is by the Age there. I mean, it's describing abortion rights, the killing of the unborn. I mean, that's very loaded language. And also mentions that he was happy to attend Melbourne's Pride March, which is the LGBTQ1. And he did the interview with with Jess Wilson, who also contested the leadership, which I thought was quite a bit weird. Wouldn't you have it with your deputy leader, Sam Groth? So it seems like that he is reacting to people saying that he's a ultra conservative because the conservative faction backs him, which is a bit disappointing. That he's sort of still on the defensive. I mean, this is what led to Bashuto defaming Moira. So yeah, that sort of didn't impress me, that article.
Yeah, if I was him, I would want to do something about women's health that supports women and unborn children, and a lot further. Could unite the party and still to walk in a gay pride. I wouldn't do it, and for him to be doing that, I'm not sure what message he's trying to send. He's perhaps trying to show unity. Those ladies to have opposition ministries. It shows that he is willing to put Conservative people into positions of influence and to support them. I think that has a lot to say. A paper to asking them asking a leader what they would want to do, winning a lot more than John Prosciutto did. So I think it's a step forward for the Liberal Party.
Now, we will have a federal election in the first half of this year. Peter Dutton, although I'm very disappointed that he's not very strong on free speech, and he's backing all of these anti-free speech laws in Victoria. Jacinta Allen's wanting to expand protected attributes and increase the criminal penalties. So that's really disappointing that that's bipartisan. Peter Dutton, certainly on economic issues, does have a much superior manifesto to the Albanese government. And now, but for those who quite rightly don't trust any of the major parties, there are less minor party options this year. The party that you were with, Rise Up, as we mentioned, deregistered in 2019. The Christian Democrats, that is wrapped up with Fred Niles' retirement. The DLP has now been deregistered in Victoria. I know that Bernie Finn is part of the Family First revival. Pauline Hanson's One Nation will contest all around Australia, though there has been a lot of disappointment with her still centralised control of the party, with her and her chief of staff, James Ashby. Then there is the Libertarian Party, formerly Liberal Democrats, which is certainly it's got a much better manifesto than it did a decade ago, but it's certainly not a party that many Conservatives could support. So, what do you see as the options in this election? What are you hoping to see?
Did Morgan Jonas get registered with his Freedom Party? Because to answer your question, regardless, look, I was part of Rise Up Australia Party for over 7 years, and contested several elections, and a lot of great things shape policy, even by our stances. So we were happy to see some of the parties. I don't know what the answer is fully. I think that we need to see good people continue to stand. So I hope that there is good choice to do it, line a Conservative Party up. Is that going to be accepted by the people? Is that going to be enough? But I certainly know that you don't get everything you want from one party, unfortunately. So it's what you know, we're standing in the next election, and I'll see where I go and who I'm with. And if not, I'll run as an independent. And so I do believe that I can make great effect. And there's a lot that's happened in the time that, you know, I'm over 50 now, I'm just going to say it. And so it is to balance a budget, to run a household, to also work full time in an industry that's quite tough. at the same time have my own business as well, where I know what it's like to ensure that your ins and outs, that they match and there's profit even at the end. So am I qualified? I hope so. I hope people can see that I'm qualified, but it's not me. There's not just me. There's so many people like me who want what's right for this country, can't be bought. And are willing to Victorian. And I've learned a lot to achieve certain results effectively, and also work with all sorts of personalities as well, but ultimately want the same thing, and that is if I could apply that to politics, we want bring back local management, also to do away with the funding of some of these crazy social policies that are chewing up taxpayers' money. We could be reducing the impact of government has on the people as well. So yes, I hope that we can still continue to look for strong people in the next election.
And our nation still faces significant challenges. Despite what Albanese and Jim Chalmers say, we are still in a cost of living spiraling crisis. We all do the shopping. We all see the price of groceries continuing to rise. Our energy prices continuing to rise. And after the COVID years with the border closures, our government has opened up the floodgates, and they have pivoted though. There's less Islamic immigration now, less Chinese immigration now, because they're worried about CCP influence. So we're mainly getting mass immigration now from India, which that's still having a cultural impact. I'm not sure if you saw heard of the mini riot that was in the Melbourne CBD in 2023 between the Hindus and the Sikhs. And in Canada, it's gotten quite bad, some of the sort of street conflicts between the two groups. And thankfully, the city of Casey, there's relative harmony between Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists, though there has been some suspicious arsons of Hindu temples, which is concerning. Though there was that the state government decided to unilaterally rename Berwick Springs Lake, which is, you mentioned the estate in your book, unilaterally rename it after the founder of Sikhism. So I just wanted to get your view if you share the concerns that I've mentioned.
So I didn't know that actually. So thanks for knowing.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that, Tim, because there's a bit of delay. So yes, I didn't actually know about the lake renaming. I think that there would have been quite divisive issue, I think, generally because Berwick Springs, I mean, people have known that area. Look, did they seek, where are they going to stop? So, but Casey is I've always said it's quite a peaceful area, despite some of the things that have occurred. And we have various people groups that are residing peacefully together side by side, not just in Casey, but in Cardini and other parts of other surrounding councils. I like to think that I'm not being delusional. I do believe that there could be issues, and the law enforcement's good at nipping things in the bud as well. But we makes this place so appealing to people all over the world with the rule of law that is actually Christian principle based. The respect for each other, respect for women. I mean, all those things, we can't detract the fact they are Christian values, and that's what make Australia strong as well. We need to get back a lot of the things that have weakened, but I'd have to say that it's because we probably detract from some of the Christian values as well. Respect, do unto others as you want them to do unto you. That's a huge one. And so ensuring that you respect people's way of life, the Christian way of life is looking after the vulnerable, respecting women, strong families, strong marriages. So protecting the children. That's what I mean.
Yes, certainly. Well, it's been fantastic to catch up with you again, Rosalie, after all these years. You can purchase Rosalie's book, Battlefield, Standing Firm for God and Nation, over at Amazon. I will put the link into the live chat, and I'm so glad that that your memoir, it's not it doesn't signal your retirement. So I look forward to you announcing your plans for the federal election, and I'd certainly love to cover whatever you decide your time on the campaign trail.
Yes, thanks, Tim. I haven't made a decision yet on exactly which election I'm going to be standing in, but yes, I'm certainly excited about what's ahead. The book is just a launching pad, really, to let you know who I am. Thank you very much for how you've consistently supported me coming to your program and your very well researched questions. And we just want to bring this country back together. I think we want the same things.
I mean, on a positive note, we've won the battle for Australia Day. This Australia Day is going to be, I think, the best one ever.
So that's... Sorry, Tim, I missed you there.
I was saying I will end on a positive note that this is going to be probably we've won the battle for Australia Day, so this is going to be, I think, one of the best Australia Days in recent years. And even at your age, you can still rock an Australian flag dress.
Oh my gosh, I still have that dress, and I hope to squeeze it back into it one by my Vietnamese migrant, because I couldn't get Australian made material at the time. So one day I'd like to have it Australian seamstress.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, and it's been great to speak to you again, and we'll keep in touch.
With Australian materials. If I ever get elected to Parliament, Tim, I'll try to squeeze into it for my speech. Okay, I'll give it a go.
Oh, Dai Li has looked pretty epic in her maiden speech.
She.
Well, take care, Rosalie, and thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's the first WilmsFront for 2025. Apology with the audio delays there. Me and Rosalie, we were having such a great conversation that if I'm not sure if it was my end or, yeah, hopefully when I'm on Thirsty Thursday with Ben Shand, the Dusty Bogan, in approximately half an hour time, the internet's still growing strong. So thank you so much, everyone, for watching. So I will see you, obviously, in half an hour's time for Thirsty Thursday. So that's 9 p.m. Melbourne time, so 8 p.m. Queensland time. So I'll have more WilmsFronts going forward. So I aim to have them more regularly here in 2025. Now, of course, I can't do all of these Unshackled productions without your support. So please consider taking out a Unshackled membership at the unshackled.net/membership. I'll put the link into the live chat. That's also where our Unshackled articles are and our Unshackler awards. So we've got so far published the Australian Regressive of the Year, the Australian Unshackler, the International Unshackler, the International Cuck of the Year, the Cis White Male of the Year, and the Triggered Feminist Awards. I'll put the link into there. Now, our Substack, that's where I alert all our subscribers of our Unshackled productions. And also you can support us there with a monthly membership, $5 per month, an annual $50 per month, or founding membership of $500 per month. So I will also be back with another Tim's News Explosion, 8:30 p.m. Monday evening on the WilmsFront channels. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell to allow for notifications, give a like, comment, thumbs up, and share to get the word out. And I will be filming some more reports from Tiger Mount with Richard Wollstonecroft tomorrow. So we'll start to publish new reports. And of course, later in this month, I'll be doing a Trad Tasman talk with Due de Boer in the lead up to the return of Reality Check Radio's launch for 2025. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.